Hello and welcome back to the Arcane Forge. My name's Josh, and it feels like it's been forever since I sat in front of you rather than just drawing. For those of you that join me because of my Monster Mondays and don't know, I used to do videos like this all the time. I also used to have hair, which I've since got rid of. It's coming back, but it used to be vibrant, and now I'm cold because it's winter. Some of you may also remember that I used to do top 5 lists, and the most popular one by far, in fact my most popular video in general, is called the top 5 most terrible DMs or GMs, Game Masters, Storytellers, whatever you call it in your role-playing game. I made a list of the really terrible ones, and I asked for your suggestions as well for DMs that you found particularly awful. Role-playing storytellers and DMs that you thought were absolutely naff, the worst of the worst, and you had some amazing responses. There was this one suggestion that
killer DMs are the worst. We call that really enjoyed playing
terrible
DMs.
No tons. Okay, fine, I get it. So when I asked for your suggestions, an absolute boatload of you told me that there was one DM that I'd missed off my list that almost all of you had encountered that I personally had not, and that you hated. And although they went by lots of different names, in general they were the killer DM, the DM that just wanted to destroy the players, that felt that the players were their enemy. Now thankfully I've never actually played with one of these DMs. I've never been on the receiving end, and I'm definitely not one of these DMs in real life. In fact, I suffer from the opposite problem. I find myself being too lenient often and have to remind myself in the middle of games, no, I need to be more stern, I need to be an evil DM, I tell myself. But your comments have definitely been a warning to not go too far. In fact, when I was struggling with this problem the most, I turned to another DM that I know, a really good friend of mine, whose campaign I used to be in. And this was actually his advice to me. He told me to treat the game more like I was the opponent of my players and to try to seek them out and destroy them. And in fairness, back then, I really did struggle with this. I let people off with all sorts of stuff just because I really struggled with saying no. And so I did actually need to be nudged more in the direction of causing threat for my players. But this isn't good advice, and it turns out you guys have voted you really hate it too. So what's going on here, and how can we fix it? So the player killer DM is, just as it sounds, on a murderous rampage, and importantly is treating the players as if they are the opponents, as if the objective of D&D is for one side to win against the other. And I can understand why this mindset arises, because you're sitting on opposite ends of the table, you are literally facing them, and you are the conjurer of all the monsters and traps and things that can kill the players. As well, role-playing games as we know them stem from wargaming. Literally, a battlefield where the objective is for one side to defeat the other. And so a lot of people, especially from older generations of players who grew up playing in war games and then transitioned into role-playing games, have basically carried this kind of feeling with them. Maybe DMs get fed up with writing all these really amazing stories and plots and things like that, and players sort of steamroll straight through the middle of it. It happens to all of us. That's kind of the nature of D&D, but maybe some DMs get really frustrated with that and want to strike back and be vengeful and try and kill the players as a result. But that's not actually the kind of game that D&D is anymore. It's primarily a storytelling game where players are expecting to go through an adventure, unravel mysteries, definitely fight some monsters, and have some perilous near misses, near escapes of death. And that proximity to death, that sort of adventure and perilousness, is definitely something that makes these games really exciting and makes them really memorable, because I've said this before, but largely the moments that you remember in D&D are when something went terribly wrong, when someone died, when someone lost a limb, when something really tragic but interesting happened and caused some development, some character development. But that's the point. It causes character development, not character death. And that's not to shy away from death completely. Players should know that their characters can die, and probably will, but they should probably be the agents of their own deaths in that case. Because players have come up with really interesting characters, they spent a really long time developing, maybe they've been playing them for years and years, and you can rob them of the experience of the game by issuing them a cheap death. Let's say you're a low-level player and the DM summons a Tarrasque, or something like that. The players are wildly and hopelessly outmatched, there's nothing they can do, but this Tarrasque is angry at them, it knows they're there, and it's going to come and kill them. why would you do that? That's just end of campaign. You could instead issue the threat of a Tarrasque. Maybe the players know that a Tarrasque is in a nearby village, or maybe even destroying the town that they're in, the city that they're in, and then it becomes their campaign's goal to become strong enough to fight the Tarrasque. But if the Tarrasque is literally bulldozing down their home and is tearing them to pieces as soon as they start their adventure, then, that's going to be cheap. Similarly, a player character that might be really strong or has been around for a while, that has not even a hint of the peril that they're in, can die very cheaply as well. Let's say they go to a bar, they have a drink, it's a normal bar, it's the same tavern that they've always gone to, nothing seems off to them, nothing in your storytelling explains that they might be in danger, they take their normal drink, and then they keel over dead. That again has robbed someone of the experience of being able to figure that out, because D&D is all about figuring out puzzles and traps and fair dues. If that character doesn't make an insight check or try to make some method of discovering poison, then it might be on their own heads. But as a DM, your job is to indicate that there might be a problem as subtly as you can. No one likes a cheap death. This game, these role-playing games, they're not Dark Souls. They're not a game where you fight something and then you die to it and then you learn how to defeat it and you try again, because your character is just dead. And the idea of doing something repetitive in this game doesn't really make that much sense. Whereas in something like Dark Souls, the challenge is overcoming this foe. But, falling down a hole isn't defeating a foe. It doesn't have the same sort of sense of grandeur. It's not uncovering a puzzle. It's not the same level of satisfaction and accomplishment for the players. Making your combats needlessly difficult or making creatures that deal obscene amounts of damage really isn't fun. Player character death can still be fun, but the players kind of have to drive at it themselves. If you put a massive dungeon full of traps, you let them know that this is probably going to have some traps in it, or at least sow the seeds of that. A nearby villager, if they're, very confident in themselves, a nearby villager might say, oh, you're going to such and such a tomb. Oh, I've heard that many adventurers have gone there and died. Or maybe there's clues in the surroundings. Maybe their passive perceptions go off when they notice bloodstains on the walls in an otherwise innocuous corridor. So the players know to look out for it. If you've given them a warning sign and then they die through a trap or through something mysterious and instantaneous, then they're still going to feel a little bit bummed out that their character dies, but they're not going to feel upset that you've robbed them of their character. At the end of the day, as a DM, you are your player's friend, you are their storyteller, and it's your job to make a really interesting story arc from adventure to adventure, from campaign to campaign, and to make it perilous, to allow your players to die, but not to seek out death, because you have a monster manual in front of you. You could kill them at any time, but where's the fun? Where's the game in that? You might as well just tell them not to turn up. So yeah, cheap deaths aren't challenging, and you should be posing a challenge for your players. The real secret of a DM is that you should always seem like you're out to kill your players, but really you want them to progress with the story. And the deaths that you intend to happen should happen for story reasons. Otherwise, if a monster kills a player, or if they fall into a trap by themselves, or if they provoke the guards of a massive city who are heavily armed, or anything like that, then that's their fault, and it'll still be satisfying for them when they die. But the overwhelming numbers tell me that there's nothing fun about a cruel serial killer DM. So I hope this helps you to refine your DMing skills, or gives you something to talk about with your DM if you feel like they are one of these killer DMs. If you feel like this applies to you, just make sure to check with your players whether or not they're enjoying the campaign as it is, are they enjoying your DM style. Again, always keep the lines of communication open with your players, because together you are crafting an experience, you're crafting a game together. And if one of you isn't having fun, then maybe all of you aren't having fun. But yeah, I hope this helps. If it did, please make sure to leave a little like down below, maybe favourite this video, and share it with the rest of your party. Everything that you do like that really helps the channel to grow. If you want to support the channel in other ways, in a more personal way, then I have a Patreon page where all my lovely backers get lots of different rewards for helping me to make these videos. So thank you very much if you decide to take a look at that. I also have a Facebook, an Instagram, a Twitter, and a website. And hopefully, with this video uploaded, this means that I should be ready to make a few more Friday videos, a bit more like this. But don't worry, my next video will be on Monday, it'll be my next Monster Monday, so I hope you enjoy that too. Until next time guys, see you later.